November 12, 1942. The western desert of North Africa baked under a pitiless sun. Among the wreckage of a shattered British supply column sat a curious prize, a captured American vehicle abandoned in the sand. Its crew had fled when their position became untenable. Standard Wehrmacht procedure dictated that it be destroyed or left behind. But the reconnaissance officer in charge had other ideas. "Get our best mechanic," he ordered. "I want to know if we can use this thing." When the mechanics arrived, they expected another crude, foreign contraption. A curiosity at best, a death trap at worst. But within half an hour, their assumptions began to crumble. The small placard on the dash read, "Willys MB." The Americans called it a Jeep. The first revelation came when they lifted the hood. The engine compartment wasn't just well designed, it was intuitive. Every wire was color-coded. Every component was labeled. Everything could be reached without special tools. In 2 decades of working on German vehicles, the senior mechanic had never seen anything so easy to maintain. Every bolt was standard. Every part seemed identical across multiple vehicles. It was the opposite of German design philosophy. Not perfection, but practicality. The Go Devil engine beneath the hood displaced only 134 cubic inches, producing a modest 60 horsepower. By German standards, that was unimpressive. But it wasn't about power. It was about philosophy. The Jeep was designed to be simple, reliable, and, above all, producible. Any soldier with a wrench could keep it running. Farm boys, factory workers, men with no formal training, all could maintain this vehicle under fire. That simplicity was revolutionary. By 1942, the difference between American and German design philosophies had become glaring. America would eventually produce over 640,000 Jeeps during the war. Germany built just over 50,000 Kübelwagens. The WWII difference wasn't merely numbers, it was an entire worldview. When officers came to inspect the find, the senior mechanic told them frankly, "This vehicle is remarkable. It was designed by someone who understands what it means to fight in the field." One officer frowned. "German engineering is the finest in the world." The mechanic didn't argue. He simply gestured to the drivetrain. "One lever engages four-wheel drive. One. Our Kübelwagens can't even do that." The Kübelwagen was lighter, more fuel-efficient, and air-cooled, classic hallmarks of German engineering excellence. But it had no four-wheel drive. In North Africa's soft sand, that was fatal. The Jeep, on the other hand, simply powered through. Its crude-looking leaf spring suspension might have looked unsophisticated next to the German torsion bars, but it was tougher, easier to repair, and astonishingly effective. The German mechanics drove the captured Jeep through dunes, rocks, and riverbeds. They overloaded it, abused it, and ran it for days. It never faltered. It crawled up slopes that Kübelwagens couldn't attempt. It plowed through sand where other vehicles bogged down. Soon, officers from neighboring units came to see it for themselves. Their reactions followed a predictable pattern: laughter, disbelief, silence. "This represents a fundamental difference," one supply officer said grimly. "We build for perfection. They build for production, and in total war, that matters more." Reports of the Jeep's design reached Berlin. Technical analysts examined the philosophy behind it. Cast components instead of machined ones, standardized bolts, stamped metal, panels that could be produced in factories once making refrigerators or washing machines. America had mobilized everything for war. Germany, still obsessed with craftsmanship and precision, simply couldn't match that scale. By 1943, American industry was producing vehicles by the thousands per day. Ford's Willow Run plant rolled out a B-24 bomber every 63 minutes. Shipyards launched Liberty ships faster than U-boats could sink them. It wasn't just an industrial advantage. It was industrial warfare. The captured Jeep became a local celebrity in the Afrika Korps. Officers used it for reconnaissance. Soldiers begged for a turn behind the wheel. Spare parts were scavenged from other captured vehicles, and, miraculously, they always fit. Interchangeability, a concept foreign to German logistics, became the Jeep's quiet superpower. Then, in May 1943, the Afrika Korps surrendered in Tunisia. 250,000 Axis troops became prisoners. Among them were mechanics who had learned more from the Jeep than from years of training. Their education, however, was far from over. In American prison camps, they saw abundance that defied comprehension. Jeeps, trucks, and tanks stretched in endless rows. Young American soldiers, many barely out of school, maintained fleets of vehicles with calm efficiency. When something broke, they fixed it in hours. When parts were missing, replacements arrived in days. One German mechanic befriended an American sergeant who spoke some German. "We make things simple," the sergeant explained, showing him a color-coded wiring diagram. "Any farm boy can fix it. We don't need engineers. We need problem solvers." "How many do you produce?" the German asked. The sergeant shrugged. "Thousands a week. We've got so many Jeeps. If one breaks down, we just grab another." It sounded absurd until the German saw the truth with his own eyes. A single American motor pool held more vehicles than an entire German division, and each shared the same basic components: bolts, wiring, hydraulic parts, all interchangeable. Logistics simplified. Maintenance accelerated. Production multiplied. The realization was painful. German engineering produced masterworks, but in wartime, it was American manufacturing that won battles. Years later, that same mechanic would be working in a U.S.-run motor pool in occupied Germany. The cities lay in ruins, but everywhere, were American vehicles rebuilding the nation they had destroyed. Trucks delivering food, Jeeps carrying officers, mechanics, German and American, working side by side. When asked what Germany should build next, he said, "A vehicle smaller than a Jeep, more efficient, but built with the same philosophy: simplicity, common parts, reliability." It was prophetic. Within a decade, Volkswagen, once the maker of the Kübelwagen, was producing the Beetle, a car that embodied that very philosophy. It became one of the most successful vehicles in history. Germany learned its lesson through defeat. The very mechanics who once examined captured Jeeps went on to rebuild their country using American principles: standardization, simplification, manufacturability. By the 1960s, Germany's economic miracle was in full swing. Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW thrived by combining German precision with American-style mass production. When veterans of the Afrika Korps gathered decades later, they spoke not of tanks or battles, but of the Jeep. One said, "The Kübelwagen was better engineered, but the Jeep was better for war." Another added quietly, "When I learned they made more Jeeps in a week than we made Kübelwagens in a year, that's when I knew we would lose." In the end, the Jeep was more than a machine. It was a symbol of practicality over perfection, of production over precision. It represented the idea that winning a modern war required not the best machine, but the best system. The Jeep was the system on wheels, proof that simplicity, multiplied by scale, could change history. And for the German mechanics who first examined that dusty captured Jeep in the desert, it became something else: a teacher, a lesson in humility, adaptation, and the power of engineering that serves reality rather than pride. Because in total war, perfection fails. But practicality endures. And sometimes, victory looks like 4 wheels, a flat hood, and a small metal plate that simply reads, Willys MB.